What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Full 90. Now, there are no Premier League games this weekend. It's FA Cup action. I was thinking about doing an FA Cup video, but there are so many games to predict. I thought I'd give this one a miss and wait until the competition progresses a little bit. So in this video, I'm going to do something that I mentioned in a previous video that quite a few of you said to go ahead and do, and it's the mid-season Premier League table prediction. Now, it's slightly past mid-season now, but I've got, there's, what, I think 17 games, maybe? Something along those lines, left of the season. So I've decided to predict the Premier League table using the knowledge of the first half of the season towards the end of the season, and I'm filming this the day after Manchester City beat Liverpool 2-1. Now, there are two different ways you could go about doing this. You could just have a table from 1 to 20 and then put in the teams initially where you think they could be, and then maybe chop and change. What I did, I went through every single Premier League fixture between every single team and wrote a result for every single one, and they all matched up. So, like, for instance, my record for Chelsea right now, the next 6 games I've got win, draw, win, loss, win. That's Chelsea, and I've got the amount of points that if all my predictions were to come true, all the teams would get. So obviously, I need to use this as a basis for how I think my table's going to look, but not as an accurate representation, because as you know, I don't predict every correct result. Nobody does. There are upsets. For instance, Manchester City, I've got them to basically win every game left, because looking at each individual game, I don't see how Manchester City will lose that, but they are going to drop points. So, you know, you could take this with a pinch of salt, but this was sort of a more in-depth way of doing it, and there are some interesting stats between what I found out. So I'm going to tell you what my table would look like if all my results came true, some special facts about that table, and then maybe something I would chop and change if I wasn't going on individual predictions, just looking at the team as a whole. So that's what we're going to do today. If you want to get involved, leave your Premier League table prediction down below. Maybe if you don't want to do the whole table, just your top 6, the order of that, and the bottom 5, something like that. Just see who gets relegated, who just survives, that sort of thing. But I'm going to get started right now with the... Ooh, where do we start? We'll start with the relegation zone, I guess. So yeah, bear in mind, this first initial table is based on if all of my predictions came true, where the teams would finish. But there are some really cool stats. You know, like one of the stats I'll tell you right now, that if all the games that I predicted were to come true in the season, there would be 1 point between 15th and 18th place, and relegation would be decided on the last day. So that's how close this could get. So if you see a team in 18th or 19th, you think I wouldn't have them relegated, just know that one other result going the other way could have them in 15th. So if your team's in the relegation zone, you don't think they're going to get relegated, don't worry. You know, you get what I'm saying. Let's just get started. One I do have for certain, that I would have put this without going through all the fixtures: Huddersfield to finish 20th. They're really not impressing me this season. They had one great game against Wolves, winning that, but that was it. And I see them finishing right down at the bottom of the table with no one really in sight. I see them being comfortably at the bottom at this point. They're the team that really are underperforming for me. 19th place, I do have Cardiff. I have a lot of respect for Cardiff. I think they're great. I just think there's a lot of tough fixtures towards the end of their season, and I don't think they're going to be able to pick up enough points. Only just, and I think they are going to finish in 19th based on these predictions. Like I said, later on I will let you know anything that I would change. 18th spot might be an interesting one for some of you to hear, but based on my fixtures and results, I'm going with Southampton. But again, 1 point away from safety, so this could chop and change. Southampton has sometimes shown great signs going forward. You know, they managed to get a draw with Chelsea 0-0 thanks to a disallowed goal and a great performance by the keeper, I believe. Their keeper performed very well in the Manchester City game despite losing that. They do have sometimes some good attacking qualities more recently going forward, but I think they are just a bit too leaky at the back, and with these results, I've got them finishing in 18th. 17th spot, let's see, that is going to go to Fulham. Now, Fulham are currently, you know, I think they're in the drop zone. They must be. They're not doing that great in terms of points. But I see them picking it up as time goes along. Not necessarily winning a lot of games. I've got them winning, literally, according to my fixtures and results, literally 2 games left in the season. I've got them actually winning. But I've got them drawing a lot of games because they do concede, but they are good going forward. And I think they should, especially with the amount of money they spent, I think they should have the power to not get relegated. And I'm having them finish in 17th. In 16th position, I have Newcastle. Again, finishing, according to this, on the same amount of points as Fulham in 17th and the team in 15th. It's so close, but obviously these fixtures and results aren't going to come true. I cannot stress that enough. rough. So this is just a rough prediction. I'll let you know what I would change. Some interesting stats as we go through. It's going to be a jam-packed video, so sit back and relax. But Newcastle, I think they will have enough to survive relegation. They have positive signs going forward, and Rafa Benitez is a good manager. He can set up his team to not get relegated. I think he can manage that. And next, 15th place, Burnley. I'm going. They're starting to pick it up a little bit, and I think they are going to do enough. They are going to be better than 3 other teams in the league to stay up. But you never know. Goal difference might screw them. They might have a really bad run of form. But recently, beating West Ham, and I think they are showing a little bit more about them and about the Burnley that we saw from the previous season. So I definitely think that Burnley are going to be safe from relegation. Now, an interesting stat here is that if all the games go the way I've written down here, there would be 10 points, over 10 points between 15th and 14th. So the relegation scrap is over with Burnley, Fulham, Newcastle, Southampton, Cardiff, and Huddersfield. And then moving on to 14th place, we have Brighton. Now, I think they're doing all right. They're playing really well, playing better than a lot of people thought. And I've got Brighton to draw quite a few games as well. Win a few too, not going to lie. But, you know, just a few little upsets thrown in there. I think Brighton are capable of, you know, staying in the lower mid-table, I would say. Moving up into 13th, we have Crystal Palace. Now, they're a little bit hit and miss, but it's got to be a few years before they perform worse than every team enough to get relegated. You know, I think they're going to be in the Premier League for a while. It's Crystal Palace. They're a Premier League regular, and I think they're going to finish in 13th, actually getting the same amount of points in the rest of the season as they have in the first part of the season. So doing slightly better in this second half because we're already a few games into the second half. I think they're going to get the same amount of points from here as they already have, doubling their score, putting them into 13th position. 12th place now, I've got given, this one is a shocker, because it's kind of based on recent form. If I just looked at the table, this is one of the ones I would have definitely placed different, but in 12th place, I've got Everton, which is very weird. Everton are quite often around the 6th, 7th, 8th position, maybe 9th, 10th if we're pushing it. But to see Everton in the lower half of the table is fairly unheard of. But according to all these results, I think had I done this maybe a month ago when Everton were in better form, it definitely would have looked a lot differently. So you have to remember, I'm looking at every fixture for the rest of the season today based on what I know about the teams today and not then. So Everton is definitely one I would change. I'd probably put Everton in like 8th. Wouldn't put them in 7th or 6th like you might expect sometimes, but I'd probably put them in about 8th. But here, so far, we've got Everton in 12th. So that is one I would probably change, but we'll see. We'll see the table progress, see how it goes, and I'll tell you all the fun little things that you need to know. So yeah, Everton in 12th for the purpose of this video. Coming in at 11th, not far ahead of Everton, but very close, West Ham. Very hit and miss lately. Sometimes they play really well. Sometimes they look like they're nothing. They look terrible. Like the game against Burnley. They looked like they didn't know what they were doing. They looked like they couldn't string a pass or get the ball in the back. And then I've got them finishing in 11th spot. Maybe a tad lower than people thought, but they are just a little bit too inconsistent to break through to that top half for me. Coming up 10th place, we have Bournemouth. I've got quite a decent second half of the season for Bournemouth. Actually, not as many points as Crystal Palace, picking it in the next half of the season, for me anyway. But yeah, I've got Bournemouth in 10th. I think with the flying start they had, maybe they would aim to finish in, 6th, 7th, 8th, that Everton sort of spot. But I've got them finishing in a solid 10th, which is great for Bournemouth. They're, again, another team. They're cemented in the Premier League pretty much, and I can't see them going down anytime soon. I've got them finished in 10th place. Coming on to 9th place, I have Leicester. I've got Leicester to get the exact same amount of points as Bournemouth for the rest of the season. So, again, less than Crystal Palace. But, Leicester obviously being in a better position now would lend them to 9th place. Leicester are overall decent, and overall they should be in the top half of the table. Really, since winning the Premier League, which was a shock to a lot of people, the coming out of the relegation zone to do it, from that point onwards, they should be the kind of team, they've got the players to finish in the top half of the table, and I have got them in 9th. Even if they have a bit of a dodgy season, they should be capable of achieving that. Now, in 8th place, a team that I've got a lot of time for, Wolverhampton Wanderers, the championship champions of last year. I've got them to have a pretty decent game. They do perform very well against the top 6. I've thrown in a few draws in there against certain teams. I do think Wolves are capable to get or keep top half of the table. They generally have very good performances. They're looking good and just very good going forward. And I've got them to finish in 8th place. 7th place now. Who do we have? I think I know from memory. It is, in fact, Watford. Watford are looking very, very good now. They did get a 3-3 draw with Bournemouth. I think they'll be disappointed not to hold on to, a goal lead lead when you've already scored 3 to, you know, concede and draw before half-time, in fact, and then not be able to bury the game in the second half. But I like what I see with Watford, and Watford, again, had a very good start to the season. I've got Watford to get slightly less points from this point to the end of the season than they did in the first half of the season, but they had a flying start. I do expect them to just do consistently well, though, you know, winning some, losing some. 7th place, I think, would be a great finish for Watford. Again, if I looked at the table, I might put Watford down a little bit into 8th, 9th, 10th maybe to bring Everton up. But yeah, Watford in 7th place based on just a quick look at the fixtures and results. Now this one, very, very difficult. 6th place, I've gone with Manchester United. Very, very close to pick this one. I've got them, if all the results and fixtures go the way that I've written in here, which again, they won't, I have Manchester United and Arsenal both to get 33 points for the remainder of the season, meaning that Arsenal would finish 3 points ahead of Man United because that's how it stands currently. It's literally that close between the two. I think Arsenal are on a little bit of a dip after a flying start and an unbeaten run, whereas Man United are on an ultimate high, and that's the reason Man United have been able to catch up with Arsenal. And I think that when Man United start playing bigger teams, when it starts to settle in with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, that I think they might drop off a little bit, whereas Arsenal, I think, will be able to steady the ship a little bit and keep 5th place. I think if I was looking at the table, it would definitely be a tough pick because Man United are playing really well. I think it would be a few more weeks I'd have to watch for me to decide whether or not Man United would actually get 5th. But at this stage, according to the results, I've got Man United and Arsenal to have a very similar second half of the season, putting Man United just in 6th behind Arsenal, who keep the 5th spot. So moving on, we have Chelsea in 4th place, having a very good second half of the season, very solid. Top 4, that's what you want with Chelsea at the moment. They don't look like title contenders. Towards the beginning of the season, I thought maybe that'd be possible, but they had some blips, too many blips, unlike Liverpool and Man City. Man City had one big blip, Liverpool yet to really have one. I've got Chelsea finishing in 4th place. Now, 3rd place, I have, of course, got Tottenham, and another stat for you here. I've got a 10-point gap between Liverpool and Man City and the rest of the teams. So, I think, you know, these results aren't all going to come true, so the amount of points I've got the teams finishing on is inaccurate. I think, like for instance, with just the results, I've got Chelsea to finish on 81 points and Tottenham to finish on 87 points, and Liverpool and Man City 10 plus above that. I don't think that's going to happen. I definitely think more points are going to be taken from the top teams by the lower teams. I just, looking at the fixtures, didn't know which one to predict, so I went with the safe option, even though there are going to be upsets in the Premier League, as there always are, which makes it such a good league. But yeah, I've got Tottenham in 3rd place, and then 10 points above them, I have Liverpool in 2nd place. That is the big one. I was starting to think maybe Liverpool could get the league on lock, and I think had they beat Manchester City, it would pretty much be secure. But now I think with only a 4-point gap and Man City, well, you know, it's Liverpool's title to lose, they might feel like at this point. And I do, like I said at the beginning of the season, I still think Manchester City are going to win the league. I've got them getting, how many more points? I believe I've got them getting 8 more points than Liverpool in the second half of the season. So you never know, but like I said, I've got Man City to barely drop any points for this second half, so which isn't going to happen. They are going to drop points as they have done in December, so Liverpool might win the league, but at this point, I think with the fixture results showing that, and me still thinking after the result of Man City beating Liverpool yesterday, thinking that Man City will win the league, I've gone with Manchester City first and Liverpool second. So yeah, just a few things that you should probably know. Like I said, that there's a 10-point gap in my opinion between Liverpool and City, and then the rest of them, whether that's Liverpool and City on like 95 points or on 85 points, I think there is going to be a considerable gap between 1st, 2nd and 3rd as the season draws on. Again, the 10-point gap between 14th and 15th, so you've got the relegation scrap and the lucky few to survive, and then the lower mid-table that is just quite far apart. That's quite important. And the most points from this point, I've got City to get the most, then Liverpool, then Tottenham, then Chelsea. So my top 4 to get the most amount of points in that order for the rest of the season. Arsenal, Man United to get the same points for the rest of the season. That won't happen exactly, but that's roughly what I've got here. Man City to win the league, Huddersfield to be 20th by far, easily, and just 1 point between 15th and 18th, making the relegation to be decided on the final day. So like I said, if I were to look at that and readjust it, I'd probably put Everton in the top half of the table, maybe to 9th. I'd maybe put Leicester up to 8th, perhaps bring Watford down a little bit, maybe bring Wolves down a little bit, but yeah, maybe even bring Bournemouth down a couple, putting them down to 11th or 12th to make room as well. You get that. I would probably rejig the mid-table, but the main thing to know, Huddersfield relegated for definite. Cardiff, do I think they're going to get relegated for definite? No, I don't. But I'm looking at the fixtures going forward. Although Cardiff have had some great results, and I'm always one to praise Cardiff, I think as the season continues, the championship side in them will shine through, and they'll just miss out, literally just by a couple of points. One result either way could completely change the way my table looks on the final day. And Southampton, again, will they get relegated? Honestly, I would say probably not, but according to this, they just would. It's going to be so close. So let me know what you thought of this table and how it looked. And yeah, I guess I could put I might put the text in the description of all the results and all the points that I made in this video, so you guys can have a better look at it. But yeah, that is going to do it for this video. So if you did enjoy it, be sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe today. We're getting close to 3,000 subscribers, which is awesome. Yeah, turn on the bell so you don't miss a single football-related upload. And I'll see you in the next video very soon.